My sourdough discard is starting to build up in the fridge, so I'm going to make a batch of tortilla wraps to freeze and use for lunches and dinners and things like that. So to start with, you'll see that my discard has started to separate in the fridge. This is really normal, but we need to give her a good mix before we pop her into a mixing bowl to use to make anything. I'm just going to use a fork. You need to give it a really good mix because the bottom will be a lot thicker. Okay, so that's all combined again now. Into a large mixing bowl, I am going to add 110 grams of my sourdough discard. And then to that, I'm going to add 54 grams of oil. I would ordinarily use olive oil, but I've run out of olive oil, so I'm going to use rapeseed. You can use coconut, there will be a slight flavour unless it's like refined, but you can use butter, anything as an alternative really. Okay, and then I'm going to add, just zero that off, then I'm going to add 80 grams of water to this, just cold tap water. Okay, then I'm just going to give that a good mix before I add in anything else, just to combine it all. Okay, that's nicely mixed in now, so I'm going to add in my dry ingredients. So to this now, I'm going to add 210 grams of plain white flour, not bread flour, just plain white flour. And then I'm just going to add 4 grams of salt. And now I'm going to give this a really good mix again, till it's like a doughy consistency. You want to make sure there's no dry bits in your dough, so you want to really give it a good mix so that everything's hydrated nicely. Let's just get our hands in there, just make sure it's all combined. It won't be particularly smooth at the moment, that is absolutely fine. You just want to do this for 1 to 2 minutes just to make sure it's all combined. If you've got a stand mixer, stick it in the stand mixer for a couple of minutes. And that'll make sure it's nice and mixed in. If you don't, do it by hand. You can then just scrape down the sides to make sure it's all combined in there. Okay, and this is what she's looking like. You then want to cover this with a damp towel and leave her for 30 minutes to rise until you do anything. So I will come back in 30 minutes when this is sat. Okay, we're back. This dough has now been resting for 30 minutes. So this is what she's looking like. So you want to get a surface that you can flour and roll the dough out on. So I'm going to lightly flour this surface before I turn the dough out onto here. I'm use the same white flour. You then want to divide your dough into 8 equal parts. So I'm just going to divide it up. And then we're going to roll these into balls. Right, while we shape these out, we just want to put a skillet onto heat. So you want a skillet like this, you don't want to put anything in it, but you want it on a high heat. So we're going to put this onto preheat. So you're now going to squish your ball with your hand. And then you're going to start rolling. You want to make sure it's nice and thin. Remember, it doesn't matter if they're not perfectly round, they're not going to be. And this is how you want them to look. You want them to be nice and thin. I'm going to go for another roll again. And then when you're happy with the shape and the size, you're going to pop that directly into the pan. You're then going to leave that in the pan until it starts bubbling, and then you'll turn it. So now this is starting to bubble and it's looking cooked around the edges. We're going to flip her over. I've rolled out the second one ready. I'm going to repeat this with all of them and cook them, and then I'll come back and show you what the result looks like. So I've just finished frying these off. I made 8 wraps with that amount of dough, and this is what they come out like. So they are proper tortilla wraps that you can fold up. They are doughy, they're lovely, they're, yeah, perfect for sandwiches, lunches, snacks. We're gonna have some with chicken shawarma tonight for tea, but then I will freeze the rest, and I basically put parchment paper between them all and freeze them in a Ziploc bag, and then they're just easy to take out as and when you need them, but you need to wait for them to fully cool before obviously you freeze them. But that is how to make tortilla wraps.